Good evening, everyone. My name is China, and this is my persuasive speech. When you hear the words natural disaster, what comes to mind? A hurricane, an earthquake, a flood? Well, humor me for a moment. Imagine this. You're at work tomorrow afternoon. It's already 79 degrees in your office, and the power suddenly goes out. It's 104 degrees outside and has been for the last 4 days. Your home has no air conditioning, and neither do any of the other facilities that you frequent. For some, this may just be a very uncomfortable moment. For others, say your neighbor's newborn baby, your coworker who's been having complicated heart issues lately, or an elderly person who just isn't as mobile as they used to be. Well, for those others, it's not only detrimental, but can become life-threatening within hours. When we hear the words natural disaster, most people never think of a heat wave, and yet extreme heat is responsible for more weather-related deaths than almost any other weather-related event. We prepare for hurricanes, we prepare for earthquakes, and we prepare for floods. Today, I'd like to persuade you that we must prepare for heat waves with that same urgency, through investing in heat-resilient infrastructure and ensuring cooling access by treating it as an essential public health service. If we're going to treat extreme heat like the public health emergency it's become, then we first have to examine whether our communities are actually prepared for it. And unfortunately, many of them aren't. Communities must invest in heat-resilient infrastructure because our current infrastructure was built for a climate that no longer exists. Many of the systems and infrastructures we rely on today were designed using historical climate patterns that no longer accurately reflect today's temperatures. Think about this. More than half of the world's population now lives in cities, and that number is actually expected to nearly double by 2050. The American Society of Civil Engineers explains that infrastructure has always been designed to be resilient, but primarily against hazards experienced in the past. Many engineering codes or standards still work off the assumption that climate conditions have remained relatively stable, but that assumption no longer reflects reality. In fact, those steadfast structures are actually heavy contributors to the distressing heat we're experiencing today. As cities expand, many modern materials we use for buildings, pavements, and other hard surfaces are called impervious structures. These materials are usually very dark in color, and they absorb and retain heat rather than reflecting it. Additionally, because these surfaces are so difficult to penetrate, a lot of the harder aspects, water cannot get through them and cool them down. Both of these contribute to what is known as the heat island effect, which causes an uneven distribution of heat to accumulate in cities in comparison to the surrounding rural areas. Instead of cooling overnight, many urban areas are remaining dangerously hot, which is increasing heat-related illnesses, worsening air pollution, and placing additional strain on electrical grids as demand for air conditioning rises. This, in turn, can cause an overload to the systems that we rely on, leading to power outages and contributing to higher electricity expenses. This has become a vicious cycle. We pollute the air, temperatures continue to rise, and there is no relief for us from the heat. We pour more resources into temporary solutions or overloading our systems that we currently have, and these pollute the air and contribute to increased heat, and the temperatures rise again, and, well, you get the point. The problem isn't simply that temperatures are rising, it's that many of the systems we rely on every day were never actually designed to withstand these kind of conditions. But I'm not here to explain a problem that doesn't come with solutions. Engineers are already developing innovative materials, from reflective roofing and cool porous pavement to smart windows and more sustainable resources. These help buildings absorb less heat and operate more efficiently during extreme temperatures. Governments also play a big role, as they have the ability to create incentives for businesses and individuals, develop initiatives and programs that give tax benefits or grants, and organizations that are responsible for educating the public on what resources are actually available to them. Investing in climate adaptation is all of our responsibility and something that we can all take part in. And speaking of investments, climate resilience isn't just good public policy and motivation for innovation, it literally pays off. According to the World Resources Institute, a study found that every $1 invested can yield over $10 in benefits. An evaluated initial benefit of $133 billion could generate benefits of $1.4 trillion with an average annual return of 20 to 27%. Researchers at MIT have also found that many investments in resilience infrastructure pay for themselves within just 2 years through preventive damage. When it comes to prioritizing resource expenditure, there seems to be a lot of resistance to investing in infrastructure because it's usually something that we only notice when it fails. But during extreme heat, the quality of our infrastructure can determine whether a community remains safe and functional or whether a dangerous weather event becomes a public health crisis. And this brings me to my next point. It's not that resilient infrastructure eliminates extreme heat. It reduces the number of people who suffer because of it. Access to cooling should be treated as an essential public health service during extreme heat. Think about the last major weather event that you experienced. When hurricanes approach, communities open shelters, issue evacuation orders, and mobilize emergency resources. And during winter storms, warming centers provide refuge for those without heat. However, during extreme heat, despite causing thousands of preventable illnesses and deaths, we often limit our response to telling people to drink more water and stay indoors. If extreme heat threatens our lives, then why doesn't our response reflect that reality? The truth is that staying cool isn't equally accessible for everyone. Older adults, infants, outdoor workers, unhoused individuals, people with chronic medical conditions, and many low-income families often face the greatest risk because of limited resources, poor housing conditions, or a lack of reliable transportation. No single individual created this crisis alone, so why should one person be expected to survive it alone simply because they cannot afford to keep their homes cool? Communities should expand access to cooling with the same urgency they provide other emergency services. Libraries, recreation centers, schools, and other trusted community spaces can easily serve as cooling centers during dangerous heat events. Studies have actually shown that spending time in air-conditioned environments can reduce heat-related deaths by as much as 66%. Cities should also provide transportation to cooling centers, conduct wellness checks for vulnerable residents, and strengthen protections for outdoor workers by modifying work schedules, ensuring access to water in shaded rest areas, and enforcing heat safety standards. In fact, there are some cities that are already leading the way. Arizona recently established the nation's first statewide chief heat officer position and implemented a comprehensive extreme heat preparedness plan. This demonstrates that governments can proactively prepare for extreme heat instead of simply reacting to it. Resilience isn't just about stronger infrastructure or more cooling centers. It's about recognizing that preparation, awareness, and adaptation can actually save lives. At the beginning of this speech, I asked you, what comes to mind when you hear the words natural disaster? Most people think of earthquakes, hurricanes, or floods, but rarely extreme heat. My hope is that when you leave here today, extreme heat becomes a part of that conversation, not because fear is the goal, but because preparation is. The question is no longer whether extreme heat will continue to occur. We already know that it will. The real question is whether our communities will be ready when it does. You guys have any questions? Thank you. My name is China, and this is the conclusion of my persuasive speech, and this is my coworker, Abdul.
Hello, everyone. I just wanted to say it was a beautiful speech, and I was very receptive.
Thank you.